Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a little while. We apologize. She's going to explain the excuses why.
Excuses, huh? June was crazy. School let out at the end of May, and our baby turned 1, and we did her birthday party later in the month because we had to wait for family to come in town, and there was some other stuff that kind of got in the way. And then our oldest had some dance stuff going on, and we had lots of family birthdays, and family came to town, and there was just a lot going on through the month of June. So it got a little crazy, and the month just quickly went away, and now here we are almost to July. But as a makeup for you guys, we want you guys to help us decide what our next YouTube video is going to be about. Whether that be a Q&A or like a couples challenge. Please, not the tortilla slap.
Or a couple's adventure or something.
Something fun that you guys would like to see us do. Now, if you do want a Q&A and you do vote for that one, leave us a question that we can answer. You leave us as many questions as you want. And then in one of our next videos, probably the one after the fun one, we will be having a special guest come on, and she'll be pretty fun to have on the channel with us. And she'll probably make a couple different appearances throughout our YouTube journey, and then we'll probably have some other guest people come on as well. But so look forward to those things and let us know what you guys would like us to do in our next video. And I am done talking for the duration of this video, probably, because you'll understand why in just a minute. So I'm going to let him take it over.
So today we're going to talk about what it's like to live with disabilities, maybe give you some insight to what their brain thinks and the way they process, and maybe help give the ones that have disabilities ways to understand. So, for example, growing up, I remember many times having conversations with my parents and them saying, you know, such and such and such, for this reason you can't do that, and me going, but I don't understand. What do you mean? What do you mean? And at that point, they had raised 2 boys, so, I mean, they should have been able to raise a third one fine. But the way my brain was processing things and the way I was thinking about it, it wasn't making sense to me. So they had to take the extra time and realize, okay, we need to explain this differently. Not wrong, not bad, just differently. We need to take the time and explain it differently. And when they did that, I understood it. And then I could say, oh, and I could answer the questions back and, help them there. The other thing was I deal with some obsessive compulsive and ADHD and all of that. And I remember times having conversations and getting distracted and all of a sudden losing where the conversation was. And then being like, why are you even paying attention to us? And getting mad at me. But it wasn't my fault. I just had ADHD and, off to left field I went. Over there picking the dandelions. And so we had learned techniques and skills to help me with that by explaining things different and doing little things to get my attention as we had the conversation. It kept my attention there. I also found if I had something kind of that I was able to play with in my hands and stuff like that when we were having conversations, I was able to focus more. The other thing is, I didn't learn the same way everybody else did. I had to learn everything. For example, a lot of you have a catch reflex. I did not have one of those. So I worked with a physical therapist, and the first thing they did was they would put me on a ball and they'd roll me forward and put my hands on the ground. Roll me back, roll me forward, roll me back, roll me forward. And it would teach me to get my hands up. And then they would take me outside, and we had met with this physical therapist, and my parents were all excited because I'd finally learned a catch reflex because I'd spent my whole life landing on my face. And so we were walking, and all of a sudden she shoved me over in the grass. And my parents were like, what the heck? We're paying this lady to push our child over? Like, I could do that. And I didn't probably enjoy it a little bit because he drives me nuts. But by doing that, I learned that as I fall to get my hands up. And so I learned a catch reflex. So now when I fall, my hands go up. I learned most of the time. There's still times I'm very delayed. There's things like when you touch a hot stove, it goes your shoulder down and you pull away. Me, if I touch a hot stove, it goes to my brain and goes, that's really hot. You should probably pull away. We're going to think about this for another 10 seconds. Then go down to my hand and then I pull away. And by that point, I'm burnt. So I've learned to be aware of my surroundings. I've learned to, realize that, there are things around me that I may not register as quickly as everybody else. That could hurt me. I don't register pain the same way everybody else does. I have a super high pain tolerance, and so that was just part of it. So I've learned to be very aware of my surroundings and what I'm doing in that way. Another thing was I struggled socially terribly. I did not know what was appropriate to say in mixed company and what wasn't. And that was really hard because I have a brother that's just 13 months older than me. And he is a social butterfly. He just thrives at it, and he is so good at it. And there were times we would hang out with friends and stuff like that. And he would look at me like I was the stupidest person ever. That just came out of my mouth. And it took him time to learn that, wait, Bridger doesn't know these things. We got to teach him. We got to help him understand it. And so they did. And so I had to learn that. So, be patient. If somebody is struggling with that, explain to them, hey, you said this. This is why this is not appropriate. Don't get mad at them and don't try to embarrass them. Do it lovingly. Another thing is this one's a little sensitive for me. It's really emotional. The ones with disabilities never give up on anything. And the ones that are there to support them, don't let them, and you push them. Your job as their, whatever you are, their parent, their guardian, their guidance counselor, whatever you are to them, you need to be there to support them, because they're only going to succeed by the people that support them. There were many times in my life where I thought I couldn't do it from school. I struggled in school. I struggled terribly with reading, writing, all of that. And my parents never let me quit. I did the same homework everyone in my class did. I did the same work in the classroom everybody else did. Yes, it may have taken me twice as long, and it may have taken a lot more effort for me, but I did it. For example, I struggled terribly with reading, and our goal was to get me to a 5th grade reading level, because that, number one, that's where the world's written at, is a 5th grade reading level. All the newspapers, everything like that are 5th grade reading levels. Up to 5th grade, we're reading to learn to read. After that, we're reading to learn. So anything you're reading past there is just to learn from. And so that was our goal. And that was a huge goal for me. A huge goal. Because by the time I was in 5th grade, I was only at a 2nd grade reading level. And I had some awesome special ed teachers. And I had some pretty tough ones. Some pretty tough special ed teachers. But my parents always knew that they could go into those meetings and knew that they pushed me to my limits. And they could look at that sped teacher and say, you're not doing enough. I know my child's doing enough because I watch them on a daily basis. I watch them fight through hours and hours and hours of this work. And so you're not doing your job. And so, you need to know that you push them. And by pushing them, they'll learn at a younger age that they can do hard things. For example, I told you guys I deal with a lot of arthritis pain, a lot of joint pain. I've dealt with it since day one. And it, some days are better than others. I deal with really bad leg pains growing up. If I'd walk too much or something like that, I deal with really bad leg pains. And I remember being in Scouts, and we decided we were going to do a 50-miler as a Scout group. And we were going to do 50 miles in 4 days. And that's pretty intense when you have bad legs and terrible leg pains and stuff like that. And I remember my mom was terrified. I was not. I said, I'm going to do this. You watch. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the first one across that line when we're done. And my mom had prepared all my Scoutmasters that I wasn't going to make it. That if she needed to come get me, that was okay. And she prepared me that I can push as far as I can push, but not to overdo it. And I can tell you after that 4th day, I was dying, but I was the first one across that line. And I walked the whole thing, backpack and all. I did all 50 miles. And that was because I knew from a young age that I could do hard things. I can literally say there is a handful of things in my life that I have physically or mentally gone, I can't do that. I have done everything I could possibly do on this, and I can't do anymore. And at that point is when my parents and my grandma and my brothers would step in, and they would say, and my sisters, he's done everything he can. It's no longer his problem, and that's okay. And so we need to remember that we push people, that even though you have disabilities and it may take you twice as long, that is okay. That is okay. And parents or loved ones or guardians, who's ever watching this, do not get frustrated with them. Watch those little inches, because those little inches are the biggest successes. I remember the first time I read a chapter book. I remember finishing the 50 miler. I remember the big challenges that we thought I would fail on. I do not remember the things I did fail on because they weren't important. I remember the big things. And so that is kind of what the video is about. If you have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to ask. I'm an open book. I will, if you want to know something from surgeries, from health, one of the biggest challenges I faced, for example, let me give you another example, and this can go for wives too, because this has to do with me and Jamie. We were at a year of marriage, and I have some weird insides. My insides are backwards. Everything runs down the left side. My appendix were on the left side. Well, my insides had knotted up. And I had this surgery before I met her, and they cut you open, rearrange everything, put you back in, and then sew you closed. And I remember getting the news that I had to have that surgery again. And I struggled with it, but I knew I could do hard things. And me and Jamie hadn't really had any trials at that point. And I began to realize that she was in my corner and that she could help me through it. Fast forward a few more months, started still feeling like garbage, nothing changing. Found out I had to have my gallbladder out. Went in for another surgery. Got admitted to the hospital. In between that again. And realized I can do hard things with Jamie in my corner. Fast forward in that same year, into November, I had to have surgery again. And had I not had Jamie in my corner, I probably wouldn't have done it again. I probably would have said no. They did the surgery. Not within 24 hours, they found a bleeder. And I knew I could do hard things with Jamie in my corner. And I went back in for surgery. And I knew that I could handle that recovery time after everything I had gone through, being cut open 4 times in a year. That 4th time was by far the worst. But I could do it because I had Jamie in my corner. And that's what this video is mostly about, is those loved ones making sure that person knows that you are in their corner. Because just knowing is enough for them to do hard things. It's enough for them to push. I deal with extreme amount of pain right now in my life, in my knees and in my ankles and in my feet. And I go to work every day because I know my family is in my corner. My daughters and my wife. I know they're in my corner. And so I can go and I can come home and I can hurt and I can deal with hard things because I know they're in my corner. And remember that your little bit of comfort or backing you give somebody will go miles. Don't get frustrated if they're not understanding in the way they're thinking. That's not their fault. And this should go for the whole world. Kill with kindness. Thank you for watching our video. We're excited to hear what you guys have questions about and stuff like that. I hope we covered enough in this one that you guys felt like we gave you enough answers. Well, I don't like to make these super long, but just enough where we give you a little insight. And as time goes on, you're going to get even more. You're going to hear more experiences in our life. Thank you for watching. We're excited to hear your guys' comments and know what questions or what challenge you want us to do. Have a good one, guys. Thank you.